Right, so my next video is basically to record, and on this one it's all about charity shops and music and things, and I guess I should say not from experience, although it may be, that charity shops are no longer selling music as cheap as you would like it to be. Gone are the days where you could go to a charity shop and find records and get things cheap. And basically what I'm saying is, back in the day, many, many years ago, you could go to a charity shop and you'd find a record, you'd pay a lot, like 50p or a pound or whatever it was, and then you'd come away and say, oh, that's worth money. I've made an investment because I've gone to a charity shop and bought a record and it's worth something like, I don't know, 20, 30 odd, 40 odd quid. Nowadays, I don't think they do that anymore because charity shops are getting savvy, and I suppose they want to make the money. But sometimes you kind of wonder, do they really need to make that money? Because they get their stuff donated. So I don't understand why when you get stuff donated and they shift through like records. If somebody donates a load of records and I'm not saying people are going to definitely donate all the best records, but somebody might just say that I don't want these records. There might be a couple of gems in there, whether it's a record by say Isaac Hayes or whether it's a record by Jerry and the Pacemakers, or whether it's say a record by Depeche Mode. Who knows? These sort of things could be in there. You might get a Kate Bush record, and it could be that it's just it could be like a Kate Bush coloured vinyl record. It could be a Depeche Mode promotional single. It could be a Jerry and the Pacemakers album. It could be an Isaac Hayes album, and you never know. They might be collectible. They might be collectible in the way that they're worth between something like 10 and £20. I'm not saying they are, but they might be. Right? But charity shops now would not get these sort of records in and put them on the shelf and say, I want, like, the singles are going to be 50p or the albums are going to be £1, and then you go away, you buy one, and then you think, oh, I made an investment. You don't. Usually what charity shops do now is actually like to make their money, and they will look at the prices of any record that comes into the shop. Now, you have to wade through a lot of records in charity shops because probably 70%, 60, 70%, or I suppose maybe 75% of music that you do get to charity shops are rubbish. You get a lot of classical music that may not be worth anything. You get a lot of sort of easy listening and country albums and various stuff that isn't really worth money. Like, they'll donate, say, an ordinary record by someone like the Thompson Twins, or they will donate an ordinary record by, say, Shaky Stevens in the 80s, or it's Jim Reeves, it's people like Des O'Connor. They're obviously looking at, like, you might get something like Mary Hopkins, who might not be worth anything. And literally what they do, they put these into the charity shop, and they're not worth anything, sadly. So you do have to wade through things like that. Although with a lot of the stuff like, as I said, Thompson Twins and things like that, it's not a case of whether they're worth something, because what they might do, it might be a single that isn't really their biggest hit. So it could still be good for people who collect their music and things like that, because you can go into charity shops and find singles by bands and artists you've probably never heard of, or and that, which are not really worth anything, but they could be in that sort of like bracket of somebody might want them because they're not the hits. Like, what would happen if you had, say, an 80s record by Des O'Connor and it did chart? The charity shop could sell it, and they'd probably put a price tag on it to say it's not really worth anything, so they'd want to sell it for about 50p. In the same way that you get some lot of Thompson Twins records that they might have done in 1987, but isn't necessarily one of their biggest hits, and somebody might not have it and they can buy it. But generally speaking, a lot of times 70% of it is run-of-the-mill stuff. It's a lot of stuff that people don't always want. They go to the charity shop, they're looking for some bagging, they're looking for some great collecting music, and they don't get that. And there's only about 30% that usually would crop up into that. And you do get some gems that people might want to buy, whether it's a first or second pressing of, say, a Beatles album or an Emerson Lake and Palmer record or whatever it might well be. You might end up with somebody donating, say, an Oasis record, and they can simply say these might be a few of the collecting points that people would have, like if you look at something like, say, old soul music. It's very easy to have some old soul records or on Motown, and it might well be that it's a Motown record by Dinah Ross and Supremes, and that could be worth something like £10 or £15. So what would normally happen is they would say, well, because the charity shops are now savvy and they like to look at price guides and go on the internet to find out prices, they'll look at that record and think, right, it's worth 10, we've got to sell it for about £7. They do that nowadays, and it's a bit sad really sometimes, because they basically want the money, and we, as a consumer, are probably thinking we're going to go in that charity shop hoping that we might get some good bargains, because we want to go in there and be able to pick up stuff like that. We want to know that if we buy a Depeche Mode record, that we might think, there's a promo record there by Depeche Mode. We might think, oh, that could be worth a bit of money. We want to know that we can pay 50p or a pound for it and know that we're going to get an investment out of it, because we can go over and say, oh, it's worth £15 and I only paid £1 for it from a charity shop. Yet, they're thinking, no, we have to go on the internet, we have to look in price guides and find prices for them. And that's what they normally do. And when they see a record like that and they'll say that record's worth £10, they're going to say we're going to sell it for £7. They will do that, and they will always do that, and they will always do that with stuff that they get in. Sometimes they'll have records that come in, and the condition, they sometimes don't pay attention to the condition because they just think of it as mint. They might look at the condition and think, it looks good to me, and they'll just pass it off as being basically a mint record or an excellent copy record. So even though that copy, like if they have a Beatles record that comes in, they might think that's worth money. And the first thing they'll do, they'll look at the condition and say, yeah, it's got a fairly good condition about it. Now, a mint condition record by the Beatles in a book or something might be £30. They might say the condition's just a little bit out of it. But to say it's an excellent copy, to them, they might say, we can't sell it at 30, we've got to sell it for about, say, £22. And that's what they'll do. They'll put price on it like that, or they'll say, you're not getting it for 30, you're going to get it for 25. Because that's what charity shops do now, sadly. And even with CDs, you think CDs, they're not worth a lot of money, but you don't get CDs cheap either. It's not like they're going to say, oh, all the albums are like 50p, or CD singles are going to be, say, 25p. No. A lot of times they will sell, like, CD singles. They might put, like, £1 for CD singles, because they think that they're rare. And they'll do that with albums. They'll get, like, CD albums that will come in, run-of-the-mill CD albums, and the first thing they do is they say, well, I want £2 per album. £2. Sometimes it goes a little bit more if it's a double album, like they might say, if it's a double album, we want £3. Or £4 if it's a double album. So, and there for some of the run-of-the-mill albums, you think to yourself, you're going into a charity shop expecting to get these basic cheap CDs, and you don't. Because some charity shops do sell them at something like £1 for CD singles, £2 for CD albums and things like that. And that's what they do. They're making their money out of it, a double CD for like £3. I would hate to think what it would be like if somebody donates albums that have got like 5 CDs in it. Say like somebody got a 5 CD box set, 100 hits or something. It's very easy. The charity shop might say, right, we normally sell a double album for like £3. We're going to sell this like 5 CD box set for say £4 or £5. And I'm thinking, it's used. It's not brand new. You can go to HMV and buy that CD for about the same price sometimes in the sale. They have a sale on, and sometimes the same CD might be the same price. Or you don't pay too much more to get it as a deal, because if you go to HMV, they do deals like 2 CDs for £10. So imagine what it's like. You go to a charity shop and they've got a box set like 100 hits of, say, the 80s. They might think, right, we're going to sell it for £5. You've got 5 CDs in it, so they're thinking £5 we'll sell it for, right? That CD could be sold in HMV for roughly the same price. Although buying it single in HMV might cost you $5.99 or $6.99 as an example, but they might have their deal on where it says you can buy 2 CDs for £10, and that CD will be in the deal. But it's the way that charity shops work now. They don't have these bargains. A lot of them do tend to use people that work there, and they basically price up things in books. But anyway, I'll leave it there, and I'll record a few more videos in a few more days, and then in them few days I've got a couple of videos that I'm going to upload. So until then, bye for now.